Hello everyone and welcome to Dr. Tim's How to Save the Forest and Koala Habitat one tree at a time. Today we're going to learn how to take our records collected in the field from our field device, our iPad, and how to import them into our computer, our desktop, and enter those records into our master record of the area we're trying to save. I've just spent the weekend in an area called Wild Cattle Creek 18, which is planned for logging at some stage in the fairly near future. I have already delineated areas of original forest on the Harvest Plan operational map in red, and I have also identified individual habitat trees as well. And here is that record on the desktop computer. This layer is a general Google layer from around about 2023. And here we have the historical imagery from the 1990s, immediately prior to plantation establishment, when the area was still fully forested, to the area as it was in around about 2009, with that forest cleared, but with little patches of surviving original forest inside the plantation area. And over the weekend, we've been in the field. We've gone to that compartment. We have collected a series of records within a couple of those remnant areas, which we now want to plot on our main desktop computer as our master record. So each one of these pins represents a tree that we have seen and measured in the field. We have the coordinates, we have the tape with the measure and the size of the circumference at stump height over bark, and we have that on the historical photography from immediately before plantation establishment, and then we have entered those records in the field onto our main imagery master sheet, which in our case is 6 maps, the New South Wales Government imagery. This particular data, image data layer is from around, as I said, 2009. And that is also what we have here brought into Google Earth Pro over that 2023 layer. So here we have all the records we've collected in the field, and they are in our photo library. And here they are. So, having collected the imagery in the field, having then put those images onto our field record, we now want to transfer them onto our desktop computer. So the first thing we do is we select them for import into our desktop computer. And I know it's these records, so I'm selecting all these records. I think there's about 35 in all. Now I go to this icon, the share button. It wants me to airdrop. It's found my Mac Pro, it's also found my iPhone, but I want to put them on my Mac Pro. So I press Mac Pro and it now says waiting. and it is now transferring those files over into my downloads folder. If we are lucky, each one of those records will contain its metadata, so its location. Sometimes if you've been away for a couple of days, Apple goes funny on security and you can't see the actual data. However, there's a set I have prepared earlier to show you what I mean. This is an image of a tree taken in a place called Tucker's Knob, and you can see here we have the longitude and the latitude. So when we start building up our master record, there are two ways to get that information onto our master record. We either use the metadata as it comes in the Finder, or we simply call up the image itself and we get that from the information associated with that record, and we click on the GPS tag, and here again we have the latitude and longitude. So we'll go back to Google Earth Pro now, which is where we want to build our master record. And we have here our data associated with Wild Cattle Creek. Here are all the areas in red, the remnant forest. And now inside Wild Cattle Creek 18, I'm going to add a folder, and I'm going to call that folder Record of Trees. Very original name. So we'll put that for the moment just up at the top here. And now we will start importing that data manually. It's a little bit boring, but it is a way of cross-checking that we have got everything we need onto our desktop master record. And we start with placemark. And here is the placemark. I'll just do that again. Placemark, and we've specified what it wants to look like and how it will appear on the record itself. So for us, just for convenience, right now it's simply a single dot, and this is where we begin to build up our record of trees. So I now go back to the imports. I collect that image number, IMG_0708. I don't bother with the .HEIC. It's the number of the image that matters, because that's the code that will ultimately be associated with that record. And of course I do the classic Command C. I go back to Google Earth, I paste it in, and now we want to know the particulars of that particular tree. So we go back to the image, I can see that we have a circumference at stump height over bark of 2.6, a little bit over 2.6 meters. I also recall that that particular tree was a blue gum. Normally you have a series of notes that you might take in the field, or you might come back from the field fresh with it all in your mind, but I know that that is what that particular tree is. So I now go back into Google Earth Pro and I go E.Saligna, because that was the species, and here I go 2600, because we do this in millimeters, so that's 2.6 meters in the round, and in the round is a code we use, CSHOB, which stands for circumference at stump height over bark. And now I go back to the record, back to the GPS, copy the longitude, do the same for the latitude. As I said, if the metadata had come in, we would have just taken it from the Finder record, but that didn't happen. I'll just double check that one. There it is. Now you will notice that the writing hasn't come up. The reason the writing hasn't come up is because I have it on opaque, because if we have too many records it becomes very unclear, but just for the exercise I'll make it visible. And I've entered the data. I've got the image number, I've got the species, I've got the circumference at stump height over bark in millimeters, I've got the latitude, I've got the longitude. Okay. And there is our first record of trees in Wild Cattle Creek State Forest. And in there is an original tree hidden amongst the plantations. And so we continue our journey all the way through until we have the full record.